What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.
Banking for life means trust, stability, and confidence.
You're there for the lifetime, and NBS providing that right through.
The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome back to another session of the Mako Rugby Roundup. We're back at the Turf Hotel, thanks to Stan and the team for having us again. I think Stan's off in the States at the moment and enjoying some family time. So the crew's looking after the place. Exciting season ahead, and it's great to have the CEO for the Tasman Rugby Union, Steve Mitchell, with us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Nice to get you in at the start of the season and set things up to see how things are going. And we asked you before off camera how your off season went, and didn't really get one. Apparently, you've been busy planning, have you? Or...
Oh yeah, there's always something going on, you know, and coming into the organisation and assessing where it is. There's always plans to be made to implement change, positive change.
Right. Okay. Well, we're finally into it, and. So before we go any further, we must give a shout out to the Turf Hotel and plug what's happening this weekend. So Thursday night, it's Jam Night. Then on Friday, it's Toadstool. Then Saturday, it's DJ Tripper. And then that famous meat raffle on Sunday, $2,200. So that should feed the family for a couple of weeks, that's for sure. So see, Steve, you were appointed last season. And although you probably had to come in and quickly get up to speed with what's happening because you had to see the Mako season out and then wrap things up. But I guess a little bit of that was seeing where things were at, and then you've had the off season. So what are your takeaways from last season and now going into 2025?
Yeah, you're right. I came in right towards the end of club season. I got to see the finals of the men's and women's. And then straight into the Mako season, which of course is an extremely busy time for the staff. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity to make change. It was more about just sit back and observe and survive the season, really.
Yeah.
The staff had been living in a wee bit of a vacuum without a CEO for 8 months and missing a chief financial officer and a couple of other key positions. They were fairly light on the ground, and I think they'd had a challenging couple of years. So I certainly couldn't go in with the big brick bat and start throwing my weight around. It was more just sit back, observe. But in the new year, we've certainly made some changes. There was changes required at board level, both the constitution and there was a revolving door around membership on the board, which was a hell of a concern. So we've just recently adopted the new constitution. It's been registered with incorporated societies. We've got some interim board members, and we're about to possibly name the AGM date by the end of this week.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So there's been some good progression. We've pulled 2 former board members back, and we've got another high caliber one who's come on interim. And we've got the appointments panel in place, beg your pardon, which was another process that needed to be updated, and a call from the membership. So yeah, there's been some really good progression at that level, at the governance level of the organisation. The staff, there's a lot going on. We've got shark school visits going on. We've got a new age grade coordinator after our negotiation with Nelson College, and the community team's running around doing quite a lot of work at the moment. Probably one of the biggest issues they have is the new platform for registrations, RX, is causing a lot of concern within the clubs. And once again, we've got a new lady, Amy, who's busy supporting the clubs, and who's boots and all in that mix as well.
So RX, is that a nationwide?
Yeah, it's an Australian-based app. I think it's used in Aussie, USA, and now New Zealand, replacing an app called Sporty. It was niggly to start with, Chris, and we've worked through it. Amy has done a lot of work, weekly trainings and catch-ups with club coordinators. So now we've got it to the point where we actually can make it work. And it is the future. You know, you just got to get on with it. And TRU working closely with New Zealand Rugby, you know, to iron out all of the niggles that arose. So yeah, it's a good system now. We're getting used to it.
And I think once it's in place, the capability of the system far exceeds the previous, and that was the whole plan, really.
So always a few hiccups with change of technology, isn't
And,
there?
and hiccups with exactly with IT, it never ceases to amaze me.
No.
It isn't seamless.
No, that's right.
Especially for us boomers.
Exactly.
We'll touch on age group rugby. We did speak to Chris Little, but we will touch on it. But before that, just going back to the Constitution. So it's what I gather, it's a slightly different change in the way that board members are appointed. And you talked about having a panel. So it was just getting that passed. Can you tell us a little bit about that panel and how the board is selected?
Yeah, so the previous constitution gave the board the mandate to establish their own appointments process, right? And that caused quite some concern. And so this one here, we have 5 different bodies. So Nelson Bays, Marlborough, Tasman Māori, the life members, and the board themselves all forward person for the appointments panel. And then they're given a skills matrix that the board will be looking for. And they take the nominations and then recommend the preferred candidate to the existing board. Pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. What it'll mean is that, the clubs too will also put forward their nominations from their clubs to that panel. It will have a big impact on the caliber of the independent directors, I believe, because that's where the actual skills that are required will arise and can be filled. So I'm really excited. What happens is we will get advised to the AP body this week, no doubt, and then we've got 60 days to get our nominations in and for them to vet them.
Right.
So
interesting.
the makeup's still the same. Two nominations from Nelson, 2 from Marlborough, and 3 independents.
3 independents,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Very good.
But just a skill set matrix across.
Yeah. Well, we were laughing, weren't we, that we had that debate with the New Zealand Rugby Union, didn't we, about that panel selection. So it's actually kind of on that model that they were talking about, where you get some expertise on the board. But the good thing from my point of view is there's club representation there as well.
Yes.
And I think that's important so that you get some feedback from grassroots as well as those that have experience in governance and financial, which is very important these days, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
HR, financial, legal. There's desirable skill sets around an effective governance board for sure.
Les and I touched on, and you may want to cover this, Les, around a little bit of a debate between college and club, and managed to sort that one out. And Chris Little was appointed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Steve, you did a good job there. It was a mediation from the clubs, which you were involved in, and also from Nelson College. And in the end, a very sensible outcome whereby, club rugby is now underway in term 2, and there'll be a schools program in term 3. So, Steve, you happy with that outcome?
Oh yeah, look, we had to find common ground, and there was common ground. It was just that there was some protection, I suppose. But the clubs really wanted their own standalone competition that was, what should I say, more around mass participation rather than performance or pathway. And as members, they had the right to request. And it just took probably, 3 or 4 sits around a table. And then Bill Rainey did a wonderful job of mediation on behalf of New Zealand Rugby. And I must admit, at the end of the day, I think all 3 parties were happy. It's a 3-year click with an annual review. And part of it, the part Tasman are playing is putting Chris Little, it turns out to be, into that space, who had been instrumental in basically analysing the issues and coming up with a solution. So he's busy there, not only supporting the clubs to field their age grade teams, but also going around. I believe he chaired Waimea College's rugby meeting last night. So once again, trying to get Waimea College rugby program back up and running for that second term, and also supporting Motueka High. But yeah, look, there's enough flexibility within that system to field as many teams as possible and to give kids both the option to play for their club, their chosen club, or their school, or both. So it's a win-win right across the board, I believe.
Yeah. So the club window is particularly strong.
Correct.
In age grade. Then, of course, is it a priority to make sure term 3, the schools window, is as strong as it possibly can be, and to give those boys who don't go to Nelson College an opportunity to play rugby in that window?
Correct. And that's why we're actually getting alongside Waimea and Motueka High. And look, if Mott High can't get their teams together this year, there's still the ability to field club teams from outlying areas. So if Mott High, we didn't get a program running from Mott High, then Kaharangi could still enter into that college window.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of concession on both sides. And, we had some pretty challenging conversations, but at the same time, I believe we've come to a good solution for both parties. And like I say, with an annual review and a three-year implementation from Square.
Yeah.
I think Bill was very happy with the outcome, and NZR was very complimentary of the process we've been through.
Because they pretty much said, here's a mediator, you guys sort it out, didn't they?
Yeah, correct.
And Steve, the clubs are happy. The clubs are, after all, the stakeholders in the Tasman Rugby Union. So everyone's happy.
Oh, good. Very pleased. All right.
Yes.
Okay. So looking ahead, so what are some of the things, highlights that you're looking forward to this year? What are you hoping to see?
Look, I as always, meaningful competition, regardless of the grade. I think the Premier competition started off, and at the moment, I think anybody can win.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of early runs, but you never know until the season settles down. And as always, we look for increased numbers, increased capability. So, what would you call it? The support services we provide need to grow the capability of both the clubs and the schools and the players and the coaches and the managers and all that sort of thing. So any growth, but for me personally, square one is financial sustainability. And I think that has been a challenge for the union over the last 3 or 4 years. We've got some strong plans in place. We just got a zero budget passed last night at the board, which has taken a lot of time to actually bring the cost centres back under an acceptable level. And we've got some wise people around the table now with a clear focus on a successful, sustainable provincial union model.
Very good. Junior and senior stock. So, have you had a chance to receive a bit of an overview around registrations and how things are looking in general?
Yeah, look, I mean, RX is holding things up a little bit.
Yeah,
so I think I'm not sure of the percentage this morning, but heading towards 100% of registrations based on last year's numbers. But I know within the age grade, I think there's 4 extra teams across the age grade competition.
Oh, wow. Fantastic.
This year, which is good to see. We're just in discussions too around our academy system. And at the moment, I think that the peak is too high and the numbers we pull in are too low. So we'll probably look at lowering that peak and trying to extend it across further players that will then feed into the senior system. Look, we've got, like I say, we've got some good, wise rugby knowledge around the table, and we are working on improving our systems and improving numbers and capability of everybody.
Yeah, well, that's absolutely desirable. Strong clubs, strong player numbers, and quality coming out is always important. So that will help. Something dear to my heart, Steve, the Mako. So the campaign isn't that far away.
No.
July you'll be underway.
Yep,
so
correct.
that, 2 more months, and then we'll start seeing a squad announced. But I'm always interested. What's the current setup of the squad, and is there any pathway, any openings for guys out of club rugby?
Yes, there's definitely some openings from guys out of club rugby. The boys have done a really good job of recruitment again this year. I mean, our reputation out there is strong, and we have a strong player base. We've managed to retain all those that we're really choosing. There's a couple that go every year, but no, I think the members will be pretty pleasantly surprised with the announcement of the team this year. There's some high caliber players.
I'll cover things out of that. The boys, who is your coaching setup?
So Gray Cornelius remains as head coach. Hawani stays as assistant. We bring back Aaron, possibly for his final year. Aaron, the forwards coach from last year.
Right, yeah.
but we've also
Aaron
Aaron
Dundon.
Dunn, didn't we know?
correct.
Was it Azza, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is that what they
that's
call
right.
him?
Yeah.
Lovely fellow.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's coming back.
He's coming back for this season, but we're also bringing in QMac.
Yes.
So
to
on the pathway.
Yeah.
And Tom Marshall comes in to support the backs as well.
Right, very good.
So yeah,
So not major changes there, and have to say, going back to a single coach model, and didn't Gray? He just came into his own, didn't he? What a great season last season. And,
look, he did really well, and I think if it wasn't for Storm Week, who knows where it would have finished?
Yeah.
But 3 undefeated teams, bang, bang, bang. 2 successful Ranfurly Shield defences and the Shield at home for the first time ever. So, yeah, look, although it didn't quite go our way in the quarters, we were beat up through Storm Week. But of course...
And Storm Week's gone, hasn't it?
Storm Week's gone.
Yeah.
So accolades to the coach of Taranaki.
Yes, and with the support of every other coach, no doubt.
Well, we've been talking about Storm Week forever. It's a pretty vicious...
So they've manipulated the draw to get rid of it.
Correct. Thursday night rugby will be a feature of the competition.
Oh, right.
So you could play one on a Thursday and then on the following Saturday. Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not bad. I mean, Thursday night rugby, if you want your weekend,
correct.
But you want something to do during the week. I mean, it's great to have daytime rugby, but going to a midweek match on a Thursday night, I'd say that's a good night, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think for television too, for your eyeballs, it'll work really well. We don't get a Thursday night game this year, do we? I've seen the draw, and I think the draw is pretty good for Tasman.
I think so too.
Yeah. In terms of time and day and times.
We've got 3 double headers too, with the girls and the boys
playing. Oh, right. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, right. That's great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple have disappeared. Can you do you know who? Can you recall off the top of your head who we won't be seeing?
Max
Hicks.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, yep. So he
went to Italy, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And who else we've lost? Paul, you put me on the spot.
Yeah, I knew I would.
Yes.
Who have you gained?
He was trying to.
Yeah,
he's trying to get a scoop.
Who have you gained?
Well, we've got all the pretty much all the big names back, and then another one in the wings that you possibly know, coming in as well. Okay.
He's going to start naming players.
Yeah, but not wings. I've heard more like half.
But yeah. There's a few changes, but I think they'll be positive.
Yeah.
And we'll field a very competitive side.
So where are the gaps for club rugby players?
Probably locks and loosies to start with. There's always gaps for props, no matter which union you look at. So some good type 5 people, and yes, speed, accuracy, passion, commitment.
Yes.
Well, didn't we have great feedback about Azza last year? He told us his story about his coaching experience. Spent quite a lot of time on the bench. Forgotten the club he was with. Was it Leinster? He was with.
Yes, he did Leinster and Ulster.
Ulster, that's right.
It was, yeah.
And then, but because he was 3rd tier hooker, he actually got involved in the training, and that's kind of how he got into coaching. And then he went to France to help coach his side, and he just started coming in and trying to teach them the Leinster way. And that just totally backfired on him. So what he learned was just to come in gradually, observe, and then just tweak the changes. And he told that story to us quite early on in the season. And last year, that forward pack, they were just sensational, weren't they? And they, as we went through the season interviewing the players, they just talked about how he'd come in and he'd just softly start tweaking, and then he just slowly started putting more and more of a stamp on it. And boy, did he get a response.
Oh, look, the front row of ours was amazing.
Yeah.
Ryan Coxon and Sammy Martinga.
Yeah,
both good soldiers. And then, when Quinny got injured and Antonio stepping up the way he did, look, you couldn't fault the work that the forward pack did last year.
Yeah. So great to have him again.
Yes, looking forward to seeing the second year of growth and improvement in especially the young forwards. He had a nice quiet, softly approach that resonated with young players. So,
and Tom Marshall now coaching Nelson, is that right? So
yeah, correct.
So we'll try and get him in
of course,
about club football. We might get a couple of scoops out of that, Les.
Yeah, without a doubt. And great to see QMac.
Yeah.
Pinder McDonald going from a storied Mako player, 120 games, and also a very successful club coach at Central, getting this opportunity now to learn under Aaron.
Well, local representation for local people, whether it be coaching or playing, that's a priority. So to have both Tom and QMac in that coaching ranks, developing on their way.
So he won't have to put on the boots again, will he?
Who?
QMac. Or maybe Tom as well, actually.
They could if there was a disaster. They're certainly capable enough, but they wouldn't want to be, I don't think. Has QMac retired?
Yeah, I believe so.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's always a hard decision for those boys, especially when the body still think, well, the mind still thinks.
If they had a run of 2 hookers injured, he'd be more than capable.
Straight in there.
More than capable of stepping
would
up.
be.
Fantastic.
Look, that's great. Let's not just forget the old hands. Hawani McDonald does the work he did with the defence was awesome.
He's also been working with Crusaders under 20s this year.
Yes.
So so once again giving coaches opportunities to grow and develop.
Fantastic. And Bruiser from Karangi going down to with the academy and
correct.
in Christchurch.
Yes,
So that's great.
So he's in the office as well, and he's working around the academy. Like I say, we've got quite some big discussions around our academy and how it works heading into the future about including more players, really.
Yes, I like that comment you made. So instead of it being a niche group of maybe 7, 8 a year in each age group, because it's a 3-year academy, isn't it? You'll broaden that.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
It all comes with costs, of course.
Yes.
But that's all part of the budgeting process. And okay, where do we invest and why, and what's the potential outcomes?
Yeah.
So that's all being analysed flat out at the moment.
Very good. All right. Well, let's have a look to see what's happening competition-wise. And you mentioned age grade. Is that this weekend?
Yes.
All starting?
Yep. Age grade starts this weekend. JAB starts this weekend.
Wow.
With the JAB, that's, under 13s, under 6s to under 13s. I've got festivals in Marlborough and in Nelson Bays around the clubs. So the kids will be so excited for that. But the actual comp starts for age grade this Saturday.
Yeah, fantastic. Good stuff. The fields will be a flush with people everywhere, which will be great. Women's senior rugby and competition starts next week. Are they having a festival, did you say, this weekend?
Yeah, they've got a festival over in Blenheim, Lansdowne Park, this Saturday. So see how that goes for numbers.
Yeah, that's right. Senior men's rugby and the results from the Stuffed Tasman Trophy from last weekend. It was a bit of a strange old time, wasn't it? Because we had that long Easter break and then some Thursday night games. But, geez, what a tight battle that was. Marist 30 over Waimea Old Boys 26. Les, you were obviously there.
Yes, and it was a real good contest. So Waimea Old Boys opened the scoring and ended the scoring. In between, Marist got enough points to get the victory. Goal kicking proved the difference in the end. Both sides scored 4 tries. Look, it was a big crowd. Trafalgar Park under lights is pretty special.
Yeah,
so good crowd, and the rugby was staunch. There was a lot of impact, but then some skill as well. So for Marist Club, a really good win because it meant that we took back the Francis Monopoly Cup, and Francis being a very special man in our organisation, and it also gave us our first successful defence of the John Goodman Challenge Trophy. So it was a pretty special time in the sheds and then in the club rooms on Thursday night.
Well, look at this. Nelson on the comeback. They got a win 31-21 over Karangi, who's obviously in a rebuild stage at the moment. That was at Cook's Reserve. So well done, Nelson.
Yeah, very well done, Nelson.
Yeah.
So they're a watch outside. Tahurangi, we've talked about it, obviously winning the Tasman Trophy last year, but then losing quite a number of players. So they're on a rebuild. And Bruiser, Brendan Smith having left as coach, the new coaching crew need to just sort of get the squad, and it's a younger squad, sorted for the future.
Central, well, obviously a bit of a late start for them because they come out 46-17 over Stoke. Geez, so they're just starting to ramp up, aren't they?
I think they ran away with it in the end, didn't they?
They did. It was quite reasonably, tight at half time. Look, Central will be very, very difficult to win at Lansdowne Park. I think that when they plan their season, they'd put down 5 home wins because they do love playing there. Travelling 5 times over the hill in the course of the season might be more difficult. So, their away games will be their biggest challenge. But yeah, very good. A very good win for Central.
Looking at the fixtures this weekend, and we've got Marist taking on Nelson. Nelson will be going in with a bit of confidence, Les. Trafalgar Park, that's at 3:00.
Yeah, and more importantly, up for grabs, or we are defending the John Goodman Challenge Trophy, and John Goodman, of course, is such a huge part of the Nelson Club. I know what their conversations will be in the sheds and at training leading into this game. It'll be like, let's bring John home. Like we were saying, let's bring Frank home.
Yeah,
they will really want to be up for this game. It's also cool. It's at 3 p.m. on Trafalgar Park, and it's preceded by a Division 2 game between Marist playing Valley Stags. So Valley Stags, of course, is from out your way.
Yes, it is. Yep.
So
yeah, no, it'll be good to see. Div 2 rugby, good honest Div 2 rugby is always worth a watch.
yeah.
All right. Well, you better pick it, Steve, or you're going to stay neutral on that one. What happens now? Can you pick matches these days as a CEO, or will you
can,
or will you run across the coals?
I've never been much good at picking matches, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it would be wrong,
especially if he's going to pick Nelson.
Not the right man to ask.
Okay,
he's got to stay neutral.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll pick Marist because I think their form's pretty good at the moment. But geez, it's going to be tough, and it wouldn't surprise me if there's a little bit of an upset. But we'll see how it goes. Waimea Old Boys taking on Central at Jubilee Park. So Waimea Old Boys do have the hometown advantage.
Yeah. Well, this is where we find out how Central, this is now round 4. We'll find out how well they can travel. They're certainly going to be strong at home, but it's how well they travel.
I'll pick Waimea for that one. Stoke taking on Kaurangi, and that's at Green Meadows. So Stoke will be wanting to bounce back, and Kaurangi, doing it hard at the moment. So they've just got to dig in, don't they?
Yeah, but Green Meadows, of course, will be heaving at the seams. They get such great support. So home ground advantage might have a lot to do with.
I'd say so. Pick Stoke for that one. And our feature match in the lower divisions, Motorworld Marlborough Senior A Rugby, and it's Havelock Foursquare Senior A taking on Renwick Senior A. That's at the Havelock Domain on Saturday at 2:00. So second of rugby and real grassroots, that stuff. So. Yeah. You'd have to pick Havelock at home, wouldn't you?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. It's good to see they've got a team.
I'm picking that Havelock at home. Right. You'd have to. Okay. The crowd would be out for that one.
Havelock. Was that the old Polaris?
Well, probably would be.
Yeah.
Look, it was in the draw. Hopefully they got the name right.
I hope you picked a game that doesn't cause conflict.
Yeah, that's right. But that's what was in the table.
But you can imagine the travel's really easy between Renwick and Havelock. So a big crowd there.
Yeah. Good luck to both sides. College rugby, actually, there's a friendly Marlborough Boys College taking on Christ College. Jeez, Christ College have to do a bit of a drive. It's at Kaikoura Rugby Club. Saturday 3rd at 1 p.m. Right. So there you go. So it must be a precursor for the up and coming college rugby season, which starts, Les, I'm pretty sure next week.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure we highlight the 3 local colleges and their as they go through this. Is it still the what's the comp called, the UC Championship?
Right.
Yeah.
I think Marlborough Boys have managed to retain quite a high percentage of their players from the previous season as well. Yeah.
Good to see. Well, it'll be a good test against Christ, that's for sure. Super Rugby Aupiki is all over. It's all gone. And now, of course, the World Cup squad is training at the moment. So 34, I think, was in the squad, maybe, trying to go for selection. So it's all on. And they said quite high competition between the young guns coming through,
yes,
and those older established players. So Ruby Tui, perhaps feeling the pressure at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see, won't it?
Yeah, and a nice influx of experienced sevens players. So Reese Pori Lane will probably be in that squad. There's a group of those who I think will just change the dynamic of the Black Ferns, especially given that they have to play England at some stage, who are absolute powerhouses in the women's game at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Just coming off winning the Six Nations, so that is an advantage for those teams going into those that World Cup competition. So Super Rugby results, and on Friday the Chiefs pretty comprehensive, weren't they? 56-22 over the Western Force, and then the Reds doing it over the poor old Blues, 35-21. So Reds starting to hit their straps, with Blues doing it hard, aren't they?
Yeah, Blues continue to be in the doldrums. I just don't know what it is. But the Reds are very capable. I thought that the halfback battle was interesting. Kate McDermott for the Reds had a whale of a game. Finlay Christie at halfback for the Blues, a very good link game, but the running game from McDermott just changed things up a lot for the Reds. So that was a good win. You know, with the Chiefs, the highlight for me was just seeing Wallace Satiti come back from injury and show that he's lost none of that class that he had before he got injured. He's just a special talent.
That sidestep and steam up was definitely good. Yeah.
On Saturday, Moana Pacifica 34 over Fiji and Drua 15, who are just having a horrible season this season. Highland is not much better.
No.
Crusaders 43 over 10, 10 points to the Highlanders. So Crusaders really starting to hit their straps. And then the Hurricanes, watch out for them.
Yes.
They're on the comeback, aren't they? 35-29 over the Brumbies.
Well, they just nailed those last few inches that were letting them down in previous games. You know, they would have all the territory and then just spill the ball or create errors. And they fixed all of that up. So just looking at those three games, Moana Pacifica, Adi Savia scoring the best non-try you'd ever see in your life, you know.
Yeah.
A little left-footed chip over the top and regather and score. Unfortunately, a knock-on earlier in the phase, but it was a piece of magic. He's the best player in the competition by far. For the Highlanders, Crusaders, Will Jordan, just what a class player. And
Makes
we might not see him, mate.
No, we might not see him, but he is on our books.
That's right. and he did throw up a fin or two.
Right.
So that was great to see. And with regard to the Hurricanes, just loving the return of Billy Proctor at number 13. Such a gifted midfielder.
So upcoming fixtures, just quick fire picks. Steve, Blues versus Western Force. Blues at home.
I'll probably say the Blues.
They got a bit of a rev up, didn't they?
Yeah,
the coach saying you need to do better.
Yeah, Vern Cotter wasn't a happy man, was he?
He hasn't been happy for a while.
But this time he's just said enough's enough. We've got to pick up our game. Yep. Fiji and Drua, Queensland Reds,
Reds.
In Fiji.
Oh, yeah, where? Latoka? No, but the Reds still.
Yeah. Hurricanes versus Chiefs, man. Hurricanes at home.
I'd go Chiefs.
Just too classy at the moment. Brumbies versus Waratahs. Brumbies at home.
Yeah, I'd think Brumbies. Two pretty good sides, but Brumbies on the home ladder.
And wanting to bounce back. Highlanders versus Moana Pacifica in Otago. So they would have got to rev up too, wouldn't they? This would be a good game.
Yeah. Okay. Moana on its day.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and yet we've yet to see Highlanders Day.
Yes.
We'll let you pick that one, Chris.
I'll go Highlanders at home. They're going to bounce back.
Nice.
It's too cold down there. Moana Pacific would shrivel up. They'll wait for warmer weather. If you look at the table, Chiefs and Crusaders, so the Kiwi sides now start to reside at the top, but not too far behind the Brumbies and the Reds. But it's still top six. You know, you've still got what? Blues could still make it. Highlanders could still make it. Is that right, Les? Because there's about 5 rounds to go.
Yes, I'd say anyone but the Fiji and Drua have a chance. I just thought it was interesting that the Hurricanes finally get a win and they've snuck into the 5th position there. I expect them to improve. Look, wouldn't you love it if the Moana Pacifica sneaked into the 6th spot? I don't think the Western Force will stay in the 6th. I think they'll drop down. The Waratahs, if they lose to the Brumbies, they drop down. So, there's just a lot of activity that can go on in that 5, 6,
Blues
7,
could turn
8
it around, couldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the headlines, and Les Kiss set to be named Wallabies head coach. So that's been confirmed now, hasn't it?
Yeah, named this morning. And interesting. He's not actually going to take over until the end of the Red season next year, so 2026. So they've come to an agreement with Joe Schmidt that Joe Schmidt's going to carry on.
Stays on. Yes.
Yeah, interesting. That just saves them money, I think, because then they don't have to pay Queensland out for Les Kiss's contract.
And wasn't there a connection between Joe Schmidt and Les Kiss? They've coached together before.
Well, they both coached in Ireland.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd know each other from their Irish days.
So there was a rumour that may happen.
Yeah, well, Les Kiss is probably the best of the Aussie coaches. Look, as far as I'm concerned, the ARU, the Aussie board, have been crazy. They got rid of the best coach they could have kept, Dave Rennie. If they persevered with him instead of going for the sugar hit of Eddie Jones, then they'd be in great shape. So Les Kiss will be a good replacement for Joe Schmidt, I think. But interesting, he'll only have 18 months to get that side ready for the World Cup.
But surely I'd say, be working quite close to Joe Schmidt. Similar tactics, wouldn't it? Yeah, the breakdown's a big part now, isn't it, for them, for Joe Schmidt's coaching?
Yeah, they'd be sharing IP, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And look what's happened with Aussie rugby this year. You know, there's been a turnaround somewhere.
Yeah, it has been.
And I think that, to me, that smacks of Joe Schmidt just having a chat to the coaches about that breakdown area.
And that fifth super side not being in the comp.
Well, yes.
The talent now across
true.
4 teams, not 5, is a big part of what's happening with, more talent evenly spread across less teams.
Billy Proctor re-signs with New Zealand Rugby through to 2027.
Yeah, he's going to be my World Cup midfielder. I think he should be in the All Blacks this year. Rico Ione's form at centre is just non-existent. He doesn't set up his outsides. Billy Proctor, you just have to watch him to see how special he is. So that's a great signing.
Red Roses, Clint Six Nations Grand Slam. They do it over France, and really they've got to be the favourites going to the World Cup, don't they?
Without a doubt.
Yep. Portia Woodman-Wickliffe comes out of retirement for the Women's World Cup. How about that? She's got to make the squad. She's got to make the team.
She will. Yeah, absolutely, she will.
And all through enjoyment.
Yeah,
she just really enjoyed the FPC.
Yeah,
and enjoyed running next to the young people, and thought she still had something to offer. So good on her.
Yeah. Good on her. Premiership rugby clubs warned of looming financial crisis. So I've seen a few headlines lately about that Premiership rugby, Northern Comp, a few clubs being in financial stook. So things, they get big crowds there, don't they? And it's a great competition, and with the money that gets injected, but obviously, the costs have risen too high. There's got to be a reshape somewhere, doesn't there?
Yeah, expenditure exceeding revenue, so they need Steve Mitchell to put together a zero budget for them.
Yeah, that's right. But there's just more and more rumours about that, and so it'd be interesting what happens around that. Well, that's it. Les, any final thoughts?
Oh, just a shout out to all the mums and dads who are going to be excited to get the kids on the field, and the kids themselves, they'll be fizzing this weekend. So that'll be great to see. I love driving around and just seeing crowds lined up around the rugby parks.
I agree. Yeah, seeing the fields full of kids enjoying their footy and wearing their colours with pride.
That's right. The washing machines will be going flat out. Thank you, Steve. Once again, thanks for setting up the season for us. And, good to see you settle into the role. And I'm sure things aren't easy at the moment, but glad to see that someone's at the helm there steering the ship.
Oh, look, it's certainly heading in the right direction. Like I said, the bones was always sound. We just got to rebuild some of the meat around them and get everybody back on board. Rugby's a family. And we put our arms out wide and pull everyone back into the circle.
Good stuff. Thank you. All right. Once again, thanks very much to Stan and the team at the Turf Hotel. Come down and check them out this weekend. Ways to listen, where you can catch us on MBS Talk Nelson website and also social media, Facebook and Instagram. Also on Spotify, YouTube, and also we've got a couple of digital radio stations. Look for Talk Nelson Radio. You can find that on the website. Also, don't forget, if you'd like to sponsor this podcast, get in touch with us and we can sort something out. Love to have you involved. That's it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week for more Mako Rugby Roundup.
Thank you.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where, and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. NBS Talk Nelson.